Right, if I could call everyone to order, please. Welcome to our Finance and Corporate Committee meeting for May. We're already under the wairua of our earlier karakia, so we will just crack on with it. Okay, apologies. I have an apology for Councillor Lou Brown, who's away on personal matters. Everyone else is here. Mike moves and Roger seconds. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Disclosure of members' interest. Does anyone have anything they wish to disclose before we proceed? I don't think so. I'm not aware of anything. That's great. And late items, similarly, I don't believe there's anything anyone wants to bring up. All good. And then the confirmation of the order of meeting. I know of no reason that we should be amending this. Councillor St Pierre and Bruce, moving and seconding that. Everyone in favour of that, please say aye. Against? Carried. Okay, moving into the minutes of our last meeting, which were 26 March 2025. They're there on page 9 of Diligent. Slightly complicated minutes, but I haven't heard anything to the contrary that anyone has a problem. Anyone want to add anything now? If not, could I have someone move that they're a true and correct record? Andrew and Claire. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Sorry.
Oh, I did for a short time.
Yeah, and seconding is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's the moving. So.
Good pickup. Okay, I have carried that, so we'll move on. So tab 6, our financial report for the period ended 30 April 2025, which is the 10 months. Last time we met was our 8-month report. So if I could invite the team up, please, to come and speak to this report. Just while they're coming, we've got quite a decent amount of time on this, okay? We've allowed 45 minutes because at the 8-month report, I'm really conscious of the fact that I pretty much had to cut down the questions because we hadn't allowed enough time. So in preparation for this, we have allowed 45 minutes. So there's plenty of time to discuss everything we want to in this financial picture, okay? Over to you.
Thank you. So we have the results as at the end of April, looking at a target of 83% through the year. Our operating expenditure is tracking higher at 92%, which is mainly driven by the asset write-offs from our revaluations that are happening. Our operating income is tracking on target. Our development contributions is tracking behind. We have spoken to development engineering, and they are confident that we will still meet our forecast for the year, but we will be keeping a close eye on that. On page, I think it is 19 of your agenda. In the dials there, we have the growth impact on rates at 53%. We've actually done more modelling on that after this report was produced, and we are sitting at 1.2%, so we're actually higher than target for that. With our rates, we currently have 18.9 million owing, and that is after the invoicing of the final instalment. And our water rates, we have a total outstanding of 2.1 million. I'll take the rest of the report has been read. And any questions?
Thank you for that hot tour of the highlights. Councillor Andrew Brown told me before this meeting he had a feeling in his gut that the growth impact on rates was going to go past 1%. So you obviously knew something I didn't. But that's good news. Right. Questions, people? Claire.
Thanks. Firstly, on page 18, you mentioned that there's now an accounting deficit, and I just wondered whether or not that translates as a cash deficit. I'm thinking about when we get to the end of the financial year, we were kind of hoping that might be a cash surplus, so that would help with the rate situation, you know. So we don't usually have the term accounting deficit. Actually, we've usually had a different term. So I'm just checking if it means a cash deficit or that you're forecasting a cash deficit. Yeah. Be able to give some clarity on that?
So you'll remember at the 8-month report, we did report that we were forecasting a cash surplus, general funds cash surplus. That's basically the difference between actual spend and revenue generated. At that point, we had additional expenses coming through. If you think about the audit on the consultation document, it took significantly longer. So we are forecasting that there would be additional expenses that we hadn't built in previously. So although we've signaled in this report that there would be a reduction in the cash surplus, we'll only know the final amount once we get to year end. The accounting deficit that you see in the comprehensive income statement is mainly driven by non-cash items such as the asset write-off. So it doesn't have an impact on rates. It's a non-cash accounting entry.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. And just on the extended time for the audit, like, have you got an idea yet of how much that is going to translate into additional cost or not? Yeah.
We don't at this stage. They still need to audit the final LTP once we've completed the consultation, the hearings and deliberations. So we'll only know that closer to the time.
And Claire, I don't want to interrupt you, but just following on from your general funds cash position, I think I'm right in saying this, at the 4-month report, that was showing a deficit. 8-month report, it had tipped into surplus, and now you're forewarning that maybe that's under risk. So that has been a moving target through the year, which I guess is to be expected. And on that, if we do finish with a general funds cash deficit, that immediately feeds into the next year's rates requirement. Is that right?
I think that's why we're keeping a close eye on it, because at that stage there's not a lot of warning to affect the rates for the next year. So I think we will do a detailed analysis of that and look at risk mitigants to put in place so that we don't get that surprise towards the end.
Okay, Claire, do you have anything further while you've got the microphone?
Yeah, I've just got a couple of other things, but they're quite minor. Those were the main things that I wanted to know about.
Let's keep rolling with you. Yep.
Okay, all right. So then on page 20 of the report, this is compliance monitoring at the bottom. That on the 3rd line, it says that the loans taken out, the average borrowing rate should start dropping as new borrowing is entered in on shorter terms. Wasn't it lower terms? Or, like the interest rates dropped?
It's a combination of both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So it's your interest rate is determined by how long and also your current prevailing interest rates in terms of what's set. So given we're moving to a lower interest rate environment, that will have probably a bigger impact.
Yes, yeah.
So that's what we're saying by mentioning that our average interest rate is 4.5. Quite a significant portion of that was entered into a high interest rate environment.
Yeah.
And we should start seeing that coming down on a weighted average basis.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Great. And then on page 21, this is the delivery of the CapEx program. And I'm looking at the community services chart with levels of service in orange or red. Yeah, so I just wanted to understand what's happening there. Is that the Cambridge Town Hall still?
We'll have to have a look at that in detail, Councillor St Pierre, and get back to you.
I'm sure that previous reports it's been that, and I think it is the Cambridge Town Hall, but yeah, I just wanted to check. Really sorry I didn't send stuff through beforehand, but I thought they're reasonably minor. And then the last thing was on page 22, and this is the other revenue analysis. The 3rd one is the revenue analysis finance income. So the actual is 3 million, but the budget's 499,000. It didn't seem right to me.
So it's a combination of two things. Firstly, any surplus funds we have in the bank account, because we have higher interest rates than what we had anticipated at the start of
Oh,
the plan.
yeah, yeah.
Our actual interest earned is higher, and then also the term deposits that we had invested in that matured in April.
So it's all fine.
And also, I do believe the arbitrage income has gone in there as well, Yolanda, and we
Okay.
did not forecast that.
Yeah, that's the term deposits that I
Oh,
was
right,
referring to.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it. I'm happy then. Thank you.
Roger, go ahead. Oh, sorry, then to you, Mike.
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Roger.
thank you,
and then
thank
we'll go
you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and it's probably just an extension of Claire's question on the audit costs. And we know the quite considerable additional time that audit spent, and it went to their higher committees and everything else like that. And we also went out for a legal opinion, and we also went out for a reforecast of growth stats from NIDIA. Do these figures, and I can understand when you say that, you know, we haven't got the full LTP audit yet, so you're waiting for the future there. This current picture, does that just include what our budget was on audit? And so can we expect to see, when we get the final figure coming through, quite a number of additional costs being seen?
Thanks, Roger. James wants to ask you that.
Yeah,
answer this.
it's a very good question both you raise. I think it's fair to say that we are going to have a considerable overrun. If we just think about the amount of time on where we originally thought the LTP would be signed off versus where we are. So yes, it's a good assumption. In terms of the accounting treatment, Councillor Gordon, we obviously need to get some of that into this year. And we will need to get a very good indication from the auditors and make sure that that's recognised. Yolanda, I'd be pretty sure that that's not included in the current forecast, given we're not sure what the amount will be yet. So that would definitely not include that, what you're looking at. Yeah.
So the assumption there is we could see that having quite a detrimental effect on our current deficit.
Correct.
Yeah. Right, thank you. If we could be kept,
we obviously should.
if we could be kept appraised of that, you know, so we know what's happening there, would be really good. Thank you.
We'll try and get as much certainty as we can around that, definitely, as soon as we can.
You done, Roger? Okay, Mike.
Thanks to the chair, Monty. Mine goes back to page 22, which I've, let's get back to. I've got three things on there. So the first ones are really, we're sort of 83% of the way through the year. If I look at the building consents, and they're up by 3.65% odd from last year, and resource consents are up by 4.8%, so modest but positive. But the value of the work is up by 35%. Have we had some like massive projects to sort of push that right up, or what sort of caused the disparity there?
We'll have to get back to you.
All right,
on that.
yep, that's all fine.
One thing I can say is
Yep.
we are very conservative in reflecting in our forecast increases in revenue.
Right,
So
right.
you're likely to find that that's very conservative, that forecasts, which is the right approach, it's the prudent approach. But as Yolanda said, we'll definitely get back to you on that question.
Yeah, no, fine. Hey, and you mentioned that development contributions, we're looking at probably hitting our target, but you know, I haven't done the maths, but it's probably around 55% we've hit so far, somewhere there. We've got like 17% of a year, a couple of months to go. What gives us confidence that we're going to hit the target or hit our budget?
So through discussion with Tony, it is because of the cycle of infrastructure
Right.
development. So he was looking at the number of 224s issued
Yeah.
due towards the end of June 2025, and communication that he's had with developers, and based on that, he's confident
Right.
that we will still receive that revenue.
All right, perfect. And my last one was just, I'm not sure what page it was on penalties. And it's small numbers. It was $15,000 last year in penalties we charged people. This year it's 34. So hey, it is over double in terms of percentage. But what sorts of things are people not getting right and getting penalised for? And again, if you have to get back to me, that's fine.
It's generally paying rates later than the due date.
Right,
That's
yeah.
when the penalty is raised. The other thing to keep in mind is the penalty percentage with the enhanced annual plan returned to 10% versus the 3% that you had implemented during COVID. So it's the percentage applied as well as late payment
Right.
for rates.
Right, thanks for that. And as an aside, if I can just throw this in there, and this is just going back many, many years when interest rates, I think, were quite high. And back in the day, we used to offer, I think it was a 5% rebate. And then, of course, interest rates dropped down to, we had to get rid of it. Yeah, I guess it's just something, if interest rates go back up, we get the money in the bank, I guess, from some people who pay up front. We sort of sit on it and we've got access to it, which is great. So I guess it's just something to remember going forward that if interest rates do go right back up, that the council could consider some sort of reduction in rates if you pay up front, as long as we're not losing, obviously. At the moment, I understand why it doesn't work.
Andrew.
Thanks, Marty. Yeah, I mean, that can work as long as you've got to factor it in before you give it back, sort of thing. But so I've got a couple of questions. Page 25, the fees and charges and targeted rates for water supply, our actuals already above the forecast. And I was wondering if that has been included in the deficit that we're predicting or not.
It would. It would.
It would
yes,
have been, okay.
Because it's revenue higher than what we had
Yeah,
predicted.
so
yes,
I mean,
it would.
obviously we're going to collect, quite a bit more over the next 2 months. So, hopefully that works in our favour. Okay, the other question, Chairperson Montgomery and I were talking about the growth. So and just how it actually impacts and the time. It's about timing, I suppose, really. So we predicted 0.8% growth for this year, and the way that the property, it tends to all happen, or the largest part of it happens in the later part of the year, the last couple of months, where we are now. So the rates on those properties are basically collected in the next year. They become rateable. We don't get much increase in the, in the year that we're in. It doesn't really matter when our prediction is the same for each year, but when we go from 0.8% to 3 something, I guess I'm presuming that our forecasting takes that timing element into account.
Yeah, so that 0.8 that we have as the target is what we've based it on is our draft LTP is year one's growth target. So although it was draft, that's the best information that we had. So effectively, we've already achieved the growth target that we had in year one of the LTP of 0.8 is 1.2. The impact of that is potentially you could look at your average rates increase would then be different because there's a bigger proportion ascribed to new ratepayers in the district rather than existing ratepayers.
Can we just be clear on this? Because we were debating this. The growth that we are for, or the assumption for growth that we're using in the current year, does that feed into the next year, yet not the current year?
It's the target for the next year.
Right.
So that we can balance the rates requirement for our existing ratepayers versus new ratepayers.
And that's consistent the whole way through our LTP. It's actually the target for next year, or the realised target, shall we say?
It's your starting.
Yeah, it's your starting point for the next year. Cool. So back to you, Andrew. Yep.
Totally, to be totally clear. So next year we're predicting 0.8 again. And I think it's the year after it goes up to 3 something. So what we're really saying is we're predicting that 3% to happen next year.
Yeah, it would happen in year 2.
What we're saying, councillor Brown, is that we're predicting for 0.8 in LTP1. It's actually going to be 1.2. So if nothing else changed, actually we collect more revenue, which has a downward impact on obviously the rating. But yeah, so the 3.2 is in year 2.
Well, I think year 2 is still 0.8.
Oh, sorry, year 4.
Year 4, if you look at the LTP,
Yeah.
year 4 is 3.6. So that means
Yeah.
in year 3, our growth target will be 3.6. So we'll be measuring the
Okay.
growth that we're expecting to offset the rate requirement.
Pretty sure I'm getting.
Okay.
I'm getting my year 2s and year 4 mixed up. It's all blended at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good question and it's a good answer. I think we're on the same page. I think people understand it. Claire?
So just on that though, so because now we have to depreciate work in progress and stuff like that in the year that it's recognised, or, you know, in the current financial year, in a way, that depreciation would have been covered by the following year's new ratepayers. You know, like I felt that that new approach to depreciation is actually a little bit unfair on our existing ratepayers because they're having to pick that up in the year it occurs, where we would normally have expected it to hit the following year.
So I think it's 25%, didn't we? We changed it to 25%, recognising that any work in progress the existing year would carry 3 months of it, right? Because audit had originally proposed 50%.
Oh,
So
you're
it's
able to
not as bad as
negotiate
that, councillor.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Just, yeah, so what we, audit wanted 50%. We argued that actually if you assumed that half the portfolio is delivered during the year,
Yeah,
and that's not realistic. So yeah, it would be 25%.
yeah. It's just going to make it harder for us to
Yeah.
get that cash.
So they get 3 months of it.
Are you done, Andrew?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, the only query I've got is what adjustment or impact is, because this year's review of the rateable values, ratepayers, property market's going down and the rateable values will probably go up. So they're going to query about that. But is there any adjustments to that as well over the next 12 months or next couple of years for that?
So the district-wide revaluation is an indication of market value. So whatever the market does, the rateable value of the district should do. It doesn't necessarily impact dollar for dollar the rate payer. It's the proportion of the district that your property holds that you get that portion of the rates.
So they're going to say, well, it's going to go down then, isn't it? The rateable value is going to go down
That will only be confirmed once the valuation
because the
reval
property
has been
market's
done.
gone down. So we're going to have all that to answer as well, all of us.
Yep, towards the end of the year.
Just clarification on that, may I?
Yeah, sure.
We're on 3 yearly reevaluation, is that correct?
Yes,
And when's the next revaluation due?
towards the end of this financial year.
Oh, this
September, October.
This year,
Towards the end
right?
of this
25, sorry, calendar year. So it's in
calendar year.
2025,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
So
this
during
year,
next
Financial
financial year.
year, yes.
it's this year, but it's 1st of August, I think it will be, it comes in. It's always August 20, it's August 22 now. And I think it's always August, so.
But Philip, it's a very common misconception that I deal with a lot, that people think if their rateable value is going up or down, it automatically corresponds to a rating impact. And it simply doesn't. If the entire portfolio universally goes down 10%, doesn't change the rates,
Yeah, that's
where the
right.
rates burden falls at all.
What the answer was there is the rateable value, the total, the sum, the rateable value is, because what she's just said is that if the property market's decreased, then the rateable value is going to decrease, not necessarily the rates are going to decrease.
No.
Yeah. But so they're going to query that if it's right. So, and they have time to do that too, of course.
Okay, I've just got a couple of things I'm going to ask James, and then if we've got any spare time, which we might just have a bit, just turn your minds to, to anything that, any sort of broad financial questions you've got. When you're facing the public at LTP consultation time, you tend to get asked a lot of stuff. And I just ran past James, if anyone's got those kind of financial questions that they've been fronting in public, it was a good chance with the finance team here to have a crack at answering them, okay? So you go first, Susan. No, because mine's kind of more general.
Oh, look, mine kind of is as well. I just was going to comment that I'm really delighted, and sorry, they're not questions, breaking my own rules here, but I'm really delighted to see the improved reporting format, and it's kind of prompted really rich and meaningful discussion around the table, which is all kind of what we're after here, right? Improved step up in terms of our performance as governors. So that's awesome, big tick there. And just anecdotally, well, not even anecdotally, but referencing page 22 in terms of those improved increases around resource and building consents. I just wanted to highlight that Wayne tells me that they're in the business of recruiting for another, we're in the business for recruiting for another building inspector. So I guess that's all sort of signs that we've hit rock bottom in terms of these lowered consent applications or issued, and we're on our way up. So it tracks to my mind as a really good sign that yeah, we're on the bounce back. So yeah, just quite good to know that.
Okay, so I've just got a couple of questions for James. Would like his thoughts on where we're heading with financial reporting review workshops, etc. Now he's sat in the seat for a little while and been able to turn his mind to that. And secondly, when our next report's coming, this is a 10-month. The next one is essentially closing off the management accounts at month 12, and how that ties into our annual report. Okay, so over to you, James, if you could give us a bit of comment on those two things.
Yeah, sure. Microphone's on, that's good news. So yeah, where we are on, we recognise that we need to improve the quality of our reporting. It's critical. We recognise that there's good data in there, need a bit more information, and then that ties into the knowledge piece as well, because without those three things, you really can't do your roles as governors. So we want to focus really in. We're kind of up against it at the moment as we go through the annual plan, audit, LTP, and the consultation stuff as well, probably through to the end of this month. So our anticipation is June as we will start working on the reporting and working with getting governance view on what's important to them, and then looking at getting some education sessions scheduled in. And yeah, we're looking to do that in the next probably through next 3, 4, 5 months, really.
And by that you mean local government financial literacy, how to understand, how to interpret, just that continuous improvement thing, especially as we update your reports. That's what you mean, James? Yeah,
that's right. And I think it's even more important to actually understand where the issues you, as governors, you're having at looking at the financials, because it's really easy for us all as chartered accountants to sit there and go, oh, we think they're, Susan's issue is here or whatever, right? And it may not be, right? Yeah. And I'm also really so conscious of the DCs and the growth piece. And that's not just from the chairman telling me every time I meet him how we're going with DCs and understanding and modelling and stuff. But I'm so conscious that so much of our future growth in our modelling and LTP realisation is tied to that, the growth in DCs. So that's an area we really want to focus on as well, but that's a cross-organisational piece that's not specifically a finance thing. So, and I know Steph is very, very keen to make progress here.
Yeah, just to augment that, I just happened to have a conversation with Tony Coots this morning, who's just back from 2 days in a conference around DCs. So sharing with other particular tier 1 growth councils what they're doing in this whole space of DCs and growth. And so great platform for us to take forward and learn from others, share not only thinking, but technology, business systems. And if we think about a spectrum of, if we've got a Toyota Corolla right through to a Lexus to a Rolls Royce, in terms of systems, resourcing, thinking, where do we need to be able to give you what you need to give that early forecasting, to make sure that we are doing, that we're enabling the organisation and our business systems are in the right place. So those conversations are very live, to James's point. So just, yeah, reassuring you that it's, foremost in our minds.
So what you're hearing is June is our start of the focus on this. So hopefully nothing else changes. So so it's definitely front and centre. Your other question was with regards to
12-month report.
12-month report. So we are trying to get the annual report signed off in this training. Very, very, very tight. But obviously this is your program of work. And ideally, council will sign us off, and we do have a statutory deadline for the end of October. So we are working with governance and Steph and Mayor Susan to figure out how we can make that happen. Audit are actually being very cooperative with us, and we've all squashed our timetables to try and make that happen very early October. So hold fire there. Either way, Yolanda, I think it's fair to say the councillors will see some form of 12-month report that will be reasonably financed later in the year.
So that will be something new that's coming to the committee. We haven't in the past done that, but we've undertaken to present a 12-month report, just so you can see where we ended with financial results. But I just need to make it clear that that would be draft numbers, depending on what audit then has to change.
Yeah, and I think we really want to do that because, as you've heard here today, we are monitoring our liquidity very carefully and our cash flow. So I think it's very important, as your role as governors, to understand where you are certainly before adjourning. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, I really support that. I think it's great. Having to wait for the annual report, which can get a little bit elongated and got a whole lot of other stuff in it, to get the, essentially we're talking management accounts as soon as possible after the balance date, I think is really good, and it keeps us really sharply focused on cash position and so on. So yeah, it works for me. Claire.
Might not be related, but there's also usually a pre-election report done. So is that the same, going to be tied up together? No.
Yeah, Steph, you speak to that because that's your report, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
CE's
it's
report.
related, but it's not the same. So the pre-election report has actually been done through a project led by Kirsty, with George as the program manager for that. So the information will be related, and they'll probably augment each other, particularly the development of them, but they're two different things.
Okay. Anyone else? Now's a chance, or we will move on. Okay, thanks, team. Yeah, look, a big thanks. Every time I stand up in front of anyone and talk to people about finances, I always have a bunch of questions. And Yolanda, particularly you've always been great at answering my questions. Takes a while to get your head around all this stuff. There's some pretty complicated stuff in here. Thank you very much. And yeah, look forward to our journey together as we all enhance our understanding of the finances of this place. Okay, right, now we have a recommendation on page 17. It's a simple one, just that we received the report. Andrew's moving, Ms. Susan's seconding. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, tab 7, moving into our health and safety and wellbeing reporting. If I could invite the team up. And over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to present the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Report. It covers the period from November to March. We are taking the report as read, and of course, we're happy to take any questions that anyone does have.
Great, thanks. I want to kick off with one myself. The page 34, the incidents involving violence and aggression now accounting for 16%. I mean, that's, look, probably the most significant thing that jumped out of this at me. Can you expand on what's happening there?
The violence and aggression has been from members of the public to our staff. So I think there's a rise in aggression nationwide anyway, and I think we're just kind of mirroring that within our organisation. This has been through our public facilities mainly, and our public facing staff, which have been exposed to either verbal abuse or sometimes through emails as well. We have been working through these items and working to strengthen our responses as well, our threat and response framework. We do look at these on a serious matter to see if there's any gaps in anything else that we can actually put together to help with our teams and our staff. We have developed some e-learning modules to advise and keep our staff trained and on how to deal with these conflict type scenarios. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Claire, I saw you putting up your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Just on that aggressive stuff, so you said generally public facing ones, like would you be able to be more specific, like is it the libraries, it's swimming pool, is it frontline staff, like, or is it across all of them? Is there one particular one that's suffering more than others?
It's been mainly like the libraries, customer support and animal control. They're the three teams that are mainly more exposed than others, mainly for the areas that they actually work in.
Yeah, okay. I've got a couple of other questions that relate to.
Sorry, Claire, just Steph wants to talk on this.
No,
Can we come back to you in a minute? We'll
Just
let
before we
Steph
move
jump in.
on, I saw Clark move as well. Before I talk, Clark, did you want to augment that or did you want to go into something else?
I was just going to add, obviously we have a number of staff who have enforcement roles, and with those roles there comes, I guess, increased exposure to aggressive behaviour.
So what you'd expect there, but also staff, for example, we've had people follow our staff in marked cars and abuse them for driving. So as you know, for example, our cars all have GPS in them. So we're doing a really big thing, a really big focus at the moment about making sure we're good drivers, right, in our work cars, but we've had people follow staff and say you're driving too slowly and abuse them for maintaining speed limit. There are some things that are really just unhelpful. People coming to work don't want to do their best work and they're overspeeding, they're underspeeding. So it's across the board, and I think the level of aggression at customer service level, but also customer service or our staff can be dealing with levels of anxiety and levels of anxiety amongst community members that are tipping over, and customer service, our customer service staff, wherever they are in the organisation, are feeling that or having to address that. And so that's the level of complexity of mental health and wellbeing we are having to deal with in the organisation. It really worries me, obviously being the PCBU and working to the legislation that we do, that we're experiencing that. And we do not want to become an organisation that becomes alienated from our community and flip the other way. We want to maintain openness, and we hear great things, for example, about our customer service areas where people come in and ask for help and get it, or our libraries. So we're just trying to maintain that balance. But it does mean that looking after our people in the ways that we can actively is really important. And it means that those aspects of access to counselling services, team coaching, growing our team leaders so that they've got the skills and are equipped to be able to deal with it are all really important investments for us as an organisation. But we do know, as Bev is saying, that our colleagues in the police and other councils, anybody in a sort of a form of authority at the moment are really facing, I mean, the health staff in hospitals, right? They're really facing this as well. So we're not immune, and it is getting worse, and it does really worry me. It is something that, we've always dealt with the traditional health and safety issues of people working in confined spaces, people working on roads, but this element of our business really does keep me awake at night.
Just hang on, we're back to Claire in a minute. Just before we leave that, the pools, you mentioned pools. Does their health, safety, wellbeing get consolidated through into our reporting or not? Are they separate?
As far as I'm aware, it's separate through the trust.
Okay, thanks. I thought that was the case, just, yeah. Okay, Claire, back to you, and then we'll go to you, Flip.
So I wanted to respond to Steph. So you're saying that you're trying to manage this risk of greater aggression through the use of training, the coaching and that kind of thing. So are you confident that that's going to be enough? I mean, that's our role as governors. We've got to test this, that this is your approach to respond to the higher aggression that staff are experiencing. It's through training and coaching.
Through a range of things, Claire. It's never one thing. It's a whole range of things. And we often map trends and themes to get a sense of, are our tools and mechanisms to respond still relevant? Is it a particular spike for a particular reason in the community? So it's a range of things. But absolutely, I would think that if we don't believe we've got the resourcing in the organisation to address it, I will come to you with that. Absolutely, because you're right. It is your responsibility as governors to make sure I've got the right resources, capacity and capability to give effect to our legislative and moral obligations to staff. We'll certainly come to you. I see the team nodding their heads. We'll certainly come to you if we don't think that we've got those in the right settings.
Okay.
But we are watching a few things right now quite closely. I mean, it almost gets to a point where you do wonder whether you want to mark all your cars, for example. It does make you think things that we've really valued and been proud of. You just think, does that actually identify staff and make them a target? So we're just thinking through a whole range of things. Do you want to add anything to that, team? Or we haven't got to a point yet where we've said we need extra money for, but I think it's an ongoing conversation with a question mark at the end of it, isn't it, Bev?
Totally. We have quite a significant amount of things in place under our threat and response framework. And right from like personal safety. So we actually have indicators for our staff on how they can keep themselves safe. For example, through Facebook, through electoral rolls, through property, all those sort of things that they can actually do for themselves to keep themselves safe, right up to from an organisational perspective. We get trainers in to train our people on de-escalation techniques. We have lockdown procedures. We've got duress procedures. We've got EAP and other services to help in them because we can't stop these people coming and being aggressive to us. So I think we've got most things in place. But as I said earlier, when an incident occurs, we look at it very closely and we look at what is in place and if there's anything that we've missed in our procedures. So we're hoping we've got everything, but we can't actually kind of guess what's going to come in our door or come through our phone network.
Yeah, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Yeah, it says to me actually that EAP service actually is going to be really valuable, isn't it? Yeah. So I do have a few questions about that, so I hope I can carry on.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, so on page 36, the quarterly H&S committee meetings, so you're saying that you're making use of training. It does say that the target is 25% of reps are trained in incident investigation, but only 14% has been. So that's a bit of a concern, like perhaps there are reasons why it's fallen behind this quarter or something.
So the investigation training was only instigated this year.
Oh.
We ran our first training session in February and we had, I think there was 8 people on the course and it was, I think there was 12 or 10 as a maximum. So we're just starting off this. We've actually set the target of 25. So this is our first course.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. And then the following page, it talks about the EAP program. I've raised this before, Bev. The number of women compared to men that are accessing it. Yeah, I do find that really concerning, like 22 compared to 4 males. Yeah. I mean, is this saying that there's something about the roles that females are having that is putting them under more stress, like it's workload, isn't it? Workload and anxiety or something, relationships.
Sorry. A bit too keen to jump in there. I'll wait my turn. So on that point, there has been a trend for quite some time that more females than males access EAP. The number of people we have accessing at the moment is actually more than what we've had historically. We've actually had periods where there's been no males accessing it and has led to some questions about what is happening in that space. It is quite a complex area because EAP is only one of the areas where people can seek support. People can seek support outside of council. They can go through their GP and other support services. So this information does highlight that trend. And if I was to make a few assumptions, I probably think there's probably some stereotypical male attitudes towards seeking help that probably comes into this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay, yes, although they obviously still should be getting support though. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if it's not if there's a way that they're not responding through the offer of this EAP here, yeah, I'll leave that with you, Clark, I think. Yeah.
We do some work in certain areas trying to encourage men to uptake support services more. There's a piece of work that's getting done around Men's Health Week where we're trying to actively promote people taking care of themselves.
What percentage of of the workforce? Yeah, what is the split between male and female?
Yeah,
Have you got
know.
more women than men or not?
I can't tell you
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
No, yeah.
Steph, would you know that number off the top of your head?
It's actually, I don't know the precise numbers.
Just-
Apologies, Jamie, but it is actually an equal split.
It is an equal split.
So for 30 women and about 360 staff.
So just for anyone listening, we have had help a friend from the back of the room saying that of our 350 odd staff, it's a roughly 50-50 split. Philip, did you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, I've forgotten. Yeah, go, Philip.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for the report. Just quickly on policy and procedures, you talked about those couple of vulnerable departments. The people that are doing walking the streets and doing the parking meters is one thing, but I had council staff come to my property last week to inspect my pool. It took 5 minutes and there was 2 people, and I thought, why did 2 people come? And then it didn't get the job done any quicker. But then I thought afterwards, is it just safety or dogs or what have you? So is that the policy that you go and two people come to visit a property? Just for
that particular items, I'm unsure. That's a process that our enforcement team would have in place. So I can ask them and get back to you, but I don't know that off.
I thought you might have the answer
No.
that they go in to visit a property.
Yeah, there's reasons sometimes why they do that. So it could be because there's a training component to this. It could be because of other jobs that they're doing. There's a whole multitude of things on why there's possibly 2 were out there at that particular time, but without knowing any other thing else, I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, it
I'm
certainly
sorry.
didn't get the job done any quicker because they just had to quickly check something and then go. So, yeah.
Yeah, and they may have had other jobs that, because they don't go out to do one job and then come back, so that there may be other jobs that they needed to have 2 people for at that time as well. But as I said, I'm unsure.
Okay, Bruce.
Thank you, Monty. I'm just on page 2 of your report, or 32 diligence on traffic management, on that risk-based trial. Can you elaborate a bit on that and how it's going on the water main? I've been through it a few times, but I presume it's just.
I can only speak at a high level. So what I do understand, and I can obviously provide more detail later, is that it has shown quite a bit of promise, but there have been some learnings that have come about from the trial so far. One of those learnings has been around better communication, but we're looking to have more information come to us as those trials continue.
I've been through that a few times, and basically the signs are all there, but you've got to use your own initiative and common sense is what I could see, but I don't know. It seems to work.
Okay, look forward to those results of the trials. I kind of had the same question, but thought I'll wait for the official answers. Did you have your hand up, Mike?
Thanks, Monty. Yeah, God, you wouldn't want to rely on common sense, would you, Bruce? You know, you have to get rid of a bloody whole heap of cones. Yeah. So, yeah, looking forward to that too. I had a couple of things here. One was I actually wondered whether that what Claire was talking about was actually almost was it real? Because last year, sorry, on page 34, 37 of our report, around the gender access stuff, because last year it was dead even. and this year 422. I wondered whether it was actually accurate. Is it just seems such a disparity? Because last year it was actually 50-50. All the other matrices in there are actually within CUI. Yeah,
Sorry, I'll have to check that. My recollection has been that
it's accurate.
information has shown that there's been a much greater uptake by females ever since I've been at
Yeah.
council. But I could check to see if there's an error in a previous report.
All right, cheers. And the other one's just a question maybe to Bev, just the page before, I think, the fair, free conflict and aggression training, is that like a day training course for?
Yeah, so this is run by Fair Free is the company. So the Fair Free, we use, it's a day for, and it's usually centered around, like for example, your libraries have that and it's specifically
Yeah.
library orientated for that environment. And then there's like a general where they, the provider comes in and teaches about de-escalation, and yes, definitely a provider that comes in on a day.
Right, thanks for that. Sounds good.
All right. I think they're actually, oh no, Marcus, make this the last question.
On page 37, what's the, under the customer personal issues graph, what's the segment at the top that's missing a thing?
I don't know. Nor did I spot that myself. But I can come back to you if you do want me to. Okay, yeah. I suspect to be disappointed, but hey.
Yeah, it'll be other. All right, thank you, Marcus. Sorry, Mayor Susan.
But hey, can I just make a suggestion, a slight amendment to the recommendation? I guess there's been a lot of conversation around the table on this item about our concerns in terms of the increase in aggression and violence towards our staff. And although adding an acknowledgement in that recommendation may not actually add any particular teeth to what can be done, I think it's a shout out to our staff as a group of governors saying, hey, we see you, we hear you, and we acknowledge that that's not okay. I know it doesn't necessarily translate into waving magic wands, but I think it's critical, especially given our responsibilities under Ports of Auckland and Whakaari White Island cases. So is there an appetite for us to amend that just to acknowledge and note the increase?
Absolutely. We can also acknowledge that during our upcoming Health and Safety Committee as well.
Okay, so the suggestion from governance on my right-hand side is we just add words on the end and council acknowledges the increased incidence of aggression towards staff.
Acknowledges with concern the increase in violence and aggression towards staff.
Okay, cool.
Along those lines.
Yeah. Now, that's an amendment to the recommendation, but it's very minor. Does anyone have a problem with that being added? So I don't have to do this formally. We'll just, that the recommendation stands with the extra sentence on the end. Mayor Susan just added. Mike.
Just confirm violence, is that, did I hear that word? Through.
Threat and aggression.
Aggression, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
It's termed in the report as violence and aggression. So what have you got there? Sorry, Claire. Yeah. Data complained in the increase of violence and aggression statistics within the report.
Okay, we have words basically to that effect. Would you like to read?
No, I'm happy to move that.
No, okay. I think we're all right. We're on the same page there.
The spirit is captured.
And can I have a mover and a seconder for Mayor Susan will move. Bruce will second. Just before we put it, I just wanted to just say one thing, that there's a tendency in health and safety to focus on the negative risks, but we haven't mentioned the fact that there have been no serious harm events for quite some time, and that's a big congratulations to the team, and long may that continue, okay? It's the stuff that keeps you awake at night, that one, so great news. Okay, I've got a motion before us. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Against? It's carried. Thank you, team. Look forward to next time. Okay, tab 8, we're into property matter. Welcome. Lease renewal.
Yeah,
for the Play
good
Centre.
afternoon. I'm sure most of you know me by now, Angela from the property team. First up, I've got a report to brief the committee on a lease renewal to the Leamington Play Centre. This is one of my infamous perpetual lease renewals. This one is renewable each and every 10 years. And I'm happy to take the rest of the report as read and take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Liz?
Yeah, thank you, Angela. I don't have a question on this particular the lease. I'm more than happy with it. But did in your conversations with them, did their footpath come up? Because it's come up with me a few times that they have a footpath in front of their particular property and next door, but along Thompson Street, there's many places where there's not. And I wondered if that had been fed back to the appropriate team during the during your talking with them, and if not, if we could maybe just put that request through.
Yeah, okay, I think, sorry, through the chair, when we're communicating with this type of stuff, we're dealing with the Play Centre's property team, not individual facilities. So probably the people that I'm talking to are not the same people that you're talking to, but more than happy to have a conversation directly with the lessee. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Right, it's a very routine matter. Page 40, we have 3 recommendations there. Councillor Pettit has moved and Councillor St Pierre seconds. Sorry, Philip, she got there first. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving along. Over to you. This is the Cambridge Badminton Club matter.
Again, so next up from me is a report seeking approval from the committee to vary an existing lease to the Badminton Club. This is in Cambridge, over on the McLean Street. There's a few community buildings over on that way. And what they're looking to do is increase their leased area so that they can extend their existing car park. This will benefit not only the Badminton Club, but the surrounding community buildings as well. They are aware that it won't be exclusive use for them to use these parking spaces. They will be made available for the other clubs and the wider community. Funding at the moment, they're not guaranteed that they are aware that there are some water pipes and other utilities under the area. So they do need to look at the costs of doing this process for the new car park. So this could, if it's going to be too costly, then this probably won't go any further. But it's a bit of a chicken and egg. They sort of need the permission to do it from us before they want to go and spend money on plans and looking into whether it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, happy to take questions.
Yeah, a tiny bit more sensitive than the usual community lease, just because there is reserve land involved. Does anyone want to question or speak about this? Mike?
Yeah, through the chair. Hey, I support this. I mean, it's the Badminton Club, but as we know, right throughout the world, pickleball is massively increasing, and that facility is actually used quite regularly with big numbers with pickleball of all sorts of ages. So, yeah, though it states it's a badminton club, it's definitely moved beyond just that particular racket sport.
Philip?
And that, thanks for your report, but that area there, how much of, and there's lots of other clubs there too. So are the other clubs using this car park as well, this area?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we have said, that we have made it very clear to them that although the Badminton Club will be funding this project, those car parks will need to remain open for other clubs as and when needed. So they are doing this for those community groups, not just for the Badminton Club.
So the other clubs will help with any funding if...
I don't think so. I think it's being fully funded by the Badminton Club.
Okay, good one. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we have, again, 3 recommendations starting on page 78. I won't read them out because they're long. Bruce moves. Can I have a seconder, please? Andrew Brown. Just before I put the motion, no one wants to speak against this? Just checking. Okay, good. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, tab 10. CoLab, change to CoLab's constitution. This is you, is it, Yolanda? Yes, welcome back.
Thank you, Chair. I will take the report as read and open up to questions.
There are no questions about CoLab's constitution? Come on. Okay, no, it's pretty straightforward, right? So, look, I'll just check. Does anyone have a problem with this before we resolve this? Okay, I'm happy to move then. Can I have a seconder, please? Roger. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Next, we're on page 111. Resolution to exclude the public for the reasons there stated. Claire is happy to move. Dalmarie, happy to second. Everyone in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And we'll just